Hello and welcome back to Saxon Math. This is Proportions, Lesson 83. So today, it's apparently a new concept. If peaches are on sale for 3 pounds for $4, then the ratio of 3 to 4 expresses the relationship between the quantity and the price of the peaches. Since the ratio is constant, we can buy 6 pounds for $8, 9 pounds for $12, and so on. With two equal ratios, we can write a proportion. For 3 pounds of peaches for $4. A proportion is a true statement that the two ratios are equal. Here's an example of a proportion. 3 to 4 is equal to 6 to 8. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. So you can see it's very similar to just reduced fractions. But when we're considering ratios, these numbers cannot be altered. You want to keep the 3 to 4 or the 6 to 8. You can't flip-flop them. You can't do anything as far as reciprocating them or doing anything of that sort. If they're improper fractions, or it looks to be an improper fraction, you do not want to change it into a mixed number. You want to leave it as an improper fraction if it is a proportion. We read this proportion as 3 is to 4 as 6 is to 8. 3 is to 4 as 6 is to 8. Two ratios that are not equivalent are not proportional. So for example, which ratio forms a proportion with 2 to 3? So we need to see if you can convert 2 to 3 into 2 to 4. Is 2 is to 3 as 2 is to 4, or is it going to be 3/4, 2 is to 3, or is it going to be 4 to 6, or will it be 3 to 2? I can tell you right now, it is definitely not going to be that one because you can't reciprocate those. 2 to 4 is not the same as 2 to 3. You can't multiply 2 times 1 to get to 2 and then 4 times 1 to get to 3, so it's not going to work there. This one, you can't do anything to the 3 to make it turn into a 2, and you can't do anything there. So really, process of elimination, you're going to end up with 4 to 6 is the same as 2 is to 3. So this ratio here, 4 to 6, would be reduced because you could divide both of those by 2. You'd end up with 2 in the numerator here, 3 in the denominator. This is the ratio 2 to 3 that we were looking for. Equivalent ratios form a proportion. Equivalent ratios can also reduce to the same rate. So 2 to 4 reduces to 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and 2 to 3 are reduced, and that 4 to 6 reduces to 2 to 3. Thus, the ratio equivalent is going to be C. 2 to 3 is equivalent to 4 to 6. How can you verify that 2 to 3 and 4 to 6 form a proportion? You could take 2 to 3, and if you multiply it by, in this case, you could multiply it by 2 over 2, and you'd end up with a proportion because that's just this would be like a reduced fraction of this, 4 to 6. So you can see that. You could also see that 2 times 6 is equal to 12, and 3 times 4 is also equal to 12. So you can see that both of those having a product, those cross multiplied products, would have the equivalent number. So those are proportionate in that case. Example 2, write this proportion with digits. 4 is to 6 as 6 is to 9. So that's simply 4 is to 6 as 6 is to 9. And that's it. We write 4 is to 6 as one ratio and 6 is to 9 as the equivalent ratio, and we're careful to write the numbers in the order that it's stated. So it has to go in that order. 4 is to 6 as 6 is to 9. It can't be in any other order. We can use proportions to solve a variety of problems. Proportion problems often involve finding an unknown term. The letter A represents an unknown term in this proportion. One way to find an unknown term in a proportion is to determine the fractional name for 1 that can be multiplied by 1 ratio to form the equivalent ratio. The first terms in these ratios are 3 and 6. Since 3 times 2 equals 6, we can find that the scale factor is 2. So we multiply 3/5 or 3 to 5 by 2 over 2. If you multiply it by 2 over 2, multiply the numerators and the denominators, you can find the equivalent ratio. So 6 is already done there. 2 times 5, that means A would be 10. So A equals 10. And you can check that these are equivalent or proportionate by taking 3 over 5. 3 is to 5 as 6 is to 10. And if you were to do the cross multiplication of that, that would be 30. 5 times 6 is 30. 10 times 3 is also 30. And because these two numbers are equal, these ratios are proportionate. And the scale factor is the number that relates the corresponding sides of similar figures in corresponding terms and equivalent ratios. So it's very much the same as equivalent fractions, but we're talking about ratios here. Example 3, complete this proportion. 2 is to 6 as what number is to 30? So 2 is to 6 as what number, let's use the letter W for what number is to 30. So now, if we're trying to find this, we have to use that knowledge that we know about cross multiplying. We know that 2 times 30 is the same as 60, and that's going to be equivalent to 6 times W. So 6 times whatever this is also going to be equal to 60. So 6W equals 60. Because this product has to be 60, so 6 times W has to also be 60 in order for that to be a proportion. So now we know how to find this just by dividing by 6 on this side, and we have to do it on the other side because it says it's equal, so you have to make sure that it continues to be equal by dividing by 6 on this side of the equation. And now you're left with W times 1. So that's the same as saying W. And this side would be 60 divided by 6, which hopefully all people know is 10. So W would be 10. And you can write that however you want, any letter you want, but the unknown term in the proportion would be 10. All right, let's try these. Which ratio forms a proportion with 5 to 2? So we have to look at this. If I was to write 5 to 2 here, I could do this 5 to 2. I'm just going to put 5 to 2 in each of these positions. And instead of just trying to figure out what reduces, I'm going to look at the cross multiplication. This one would be 10. So if I was to cross those, this would be multiplied, that'd be 10, this would be 6. So that means this is not proportionate. If I did 2 times 4 here, that'd be 8, and 10 times 5 would be 50. So that is not proportionate. If I do this one, this would be 30. 15 times 2 is 30, and 6 times 5 is 30. So that means this is my proportionate answer. And letter D, if I double check this one, it says 10 here because 2 times 5 is 10, and 20 times 5 is 100. So that is not proportionate either. The only one of these that forms a proportion with 5 to 2 is letter C, 15/6. And if you were to take 15 divided by 3, it would get 5, and 6 divided by 3, you'd get 2. So you can see it clearly there. All right, letter B. write this proportion with digits. 6 is to 8 as 9 is to 12. All right, I hope that just basically gave you the answer right there. 6 is to 8 as 9 is to 12. Just has to go in that order. 6 first, and this is to 8 is like this ratio here. 6 is to 8 as, so that means equals 9 is to 12, and it has to go in that order. 9 is to 12. Letter C, write and complete this proportion. 4 is to 3 as 12 is to what number? And then how do you find your answer? So we're trying to find out what number is missing. So 4 is to 3 as 12 is to what number? And let's just use the letter N this time. It could be any letter in the alphabet really that you want. And I'm going in that order. 4 is to 3, so it has to be the 4 in the numerator and the 3 in the denominator, and that's ratio. 4 is to 3 as, and this means equals, 12. So 12 is in the top, and then what number? That means a number we don't know. It's an unknown. So if I have those numbers, now I have to do my cross multiplication. I know that 12 times 3 is 36. So that means I have to have 4 times some number n that I don't know also being equal to 36. So 4 times n equals 36. That would be the equation. And if I divide this side by 4 and I divide this side by 4, I end up with 1 times n. And now n by itself equals 36 divided by 4. That means n equals 9. That'd be my final answer. I should have this proportion and n equaling 9. You could rewrite the proportion 4 is to 3 as 12 is to 9. Letter D, write and complete this proportion. 6 is to 9 as what number is to 36? And how can you check your answer? All right, so starting off again, 6 is first. 6 is to 9. So 9 is underneath there. And then the word as means equals. So I'm going to put an equals. What number? So we don't know what number. So let's just use the letter X. And what number is to 36? All right, so in this case, I now have to do the cross multiplication again. So 6 times 36. 6 times 36 is going to be equal to 9 times x. So 9x. So if I was to divide this side by 9 and then divide this side by 9, I now have x alone by itself. I can do this division here. I can see a couple of things. I'm just going to do a quick instead of doing 36 times 6, I'm going to recognize that 9 and 6 are both divisible by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So that reduces in a sense. And then I noticed that 36 and 3 are a lot more compatible. So I can take 36 divided by 3 a lot easier. 36 divided by 3 would go in there like this. And I'd end up with this 6, that'd be 12, pretty easy. So this would be 12 up here, this would be 1 down here. Now all I'm left with is this 2 times 12 equals x. So that means x equals 24 in this case. So my proportion would be 6 is to 9 as 24 is to 36. So x equaling 24. And you can check your answer and make sure that 9 times 24, if you want to really do that, 9 times 24, multiply that, would be 36. That'd be 18 plus 3 would be 216. And then if 36 times 6 is 216, then we are good. So this would be 6 times 3 would be 18, plus that would be 216. So perfect. Those are equal. That means that these are proportionate. 6 is to 9 as 24 is to 36. All right, excellent work. Make sure you guys, when you're doing your written practice, you do lesson written practice 1 through 30. You do all 30 problems. It's very important. Saxon Math requires you to do all 30 problems to get your daily practice and get your understanding from the previous lessons throughout the year. All right, excellent. We'll see you next time.